All right, welcome back. It's now 5 minutes past 7 a.m. Good morning. Welcome to the program. I'm Victor Oloo. So today on politics, just want to take a look at what is really happening across the country and, of course, if possible, across our borders, because that is what we do best here. You know what? As I earlier told you, I want us to take a look at how we can strike the balance. What is really happening in the country the past 1 month or so is something that was unprecedented. And now, where do we find that balance in as far as stability of the nation is concerned? Now that is exactly what I want us to be discussing at this particular hour. I have got my guest, that is Peter Simba Wasaga, who is an advocate of the High Court. Join me on set, as well as Dr. John Mukundi, who is a political analyst and a governance expert. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
None of you is a Gen Z, apart from Peter. I might say that with authority. Peter, you're a Gen Z.
I am a Gen Z.
These guys.
I'm in the middle. Gen Z.
Sitting in the periphery.
But of course I am a millennial. If so that is because we have never had.
Are you a Gen Z or are you?
We have never had a very good definition or proper definition of a Gen Z. There are those who say that a Gen Z is, ranges from those who were born between 1996 to 2012. There are those who take it backward to around 1992, 1993, 1994. So if we get a proper definition...
And who came up with this categorization? Because it's not working. From 96, 2002, 1992. 1992, that's 32 years ago.
Nevertheless, we are youth. We are within the category.
I see what you're trying to do there.
We are within the category,
right?
Below 34 years. And whatever affects this nation affects us.
All of us.
We are the leaders of today.
Mr. Mukundi,
they are just but caretakers.
Yes. I see. Mr. Mukundi, if you're given a chance to go back to your younger days, would you want to be a Gen Z? What's that one wish? Okay, you picked my mind. What's your one wish?
Obviously, if I grow up, I would want to be a Gen Z.
It's interesting being there.
It is interesting.
There is a lot you missed.
Yes.
There's a lot you missed.
Yes.
Welcome to the program, gentlemen. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So on the front page of the local dailies, let me start with the local papers very fast. On the front page of the Star newspaper, this is what I have. PSS and advices on Ruto chopping board. That is what's on the front page of the Star newspaper. PSS and advices on Ruto chopping board. What's the paper saying? That, among some of the changes are just basically radical changes, that among those facing the axe is economic expert David D. Okay. So success of sweeping reforms will be crucial in determining the trajectory of his presidency. Now, that is what is in the president's entry. Again, on the front page of the Star newspaper, shake-up looms as Ruto team maps 47 parastatals. He gave this kind of directive a week and a half ago, last week actually, when he addressed the nation and some of the steps that he was going to stabilize the country. Again, on the front page, tear gas jolted lawyers to fight for Gen Z protesters. Now, Peter is happy about that. Tear gas jolted lawyers to fight for Gen Z protesters. And it's a dog's life for women whose kids were defiled. Sad story there. Peter, this must be a good news for you. Let me start with, but we'll talk about these ones later on.
Okay.
The story says that when the first anti-finance bill protest erupted in Nairobi early last month, police rounded up hundreds of youths, all right? And thereafter, a battery of lawyers who camped at the Central Police Station seeking their release were tear-gassed. And so that's actually what necessitated what's happening in the country right now with the LSK coming on board. And a battery of lawyers who are also ready to give pro bono services to the protesters who've been arrested in the process. I'll take a look at that. But let me start with you, Mukundi. PSS and advices on the Ruto chopping board. He's not done yet.
Yeah, I think it is not yet done. But I'm assuming that we are still in the process. And one thing is for sure, that we have some bloated wage bill because of the kind of people that we have been having in this nation, in the appointive positions and in those other elected positions.
Yes.
And you realize our wage bills are quite high, and not only in the national government, but also in the counties. We have even as many people that are, many counties that have over 50% wage bill. And the normal wage bill should be around 35%. And therefore, what I think that process of chopping the advisors is quite welcome. And I am hoping that it should be done as early as possible. Because obviously we are taxing the Kenyan taxpayer with a lot of money. We are paying a lot of taxes, and that is why we protested, because, okay, assuming emergency, because of the finance bill and the kind of burden that it was coming to the common mwananchi. So I totally believe that the PSs, you will find a ministry that has like 3 PSs. And you'll find also a ministry that is subdivided into 2 that can be merged. You find a person that has 4 advisors or 5 advisors, and it is 1 person. Even an advisor to advise the advisors on how to advise. So sometimes it doesn't make sense. That is why we need to do away with some of those positions, because at least 1 advisor is enough. Some of the people, even people that are doing very well in the country, you find they even have 1 advisor or 0 advisors and still doing very well. And therefore, those are some of positions that have been created so that they can reward some cronies and political people that have assisted you to get the position. So I really think that it is important that we chop the number of advisors.
Very well.
Yeah.
Peter, on the front page, the star?
It's very obvious that we have a culture of rewarding our cronies. I mean, political class have a culture of rewarding cronies or advising, rewarding their lieutenants at the expense of the people. Normally, politics is about interest.
Yes.
And it is my interest. And that interest normally is discussed on the table prior to the elections. You saw Mike Sonko the other day. He came publicly and said they agreed with the president that he will be given some PSS, he will be given some ambassadors. As who? You see? So these are things that are going on a table. They agree. When they come, they want to ensure that everyone is happy. And the public is sad, because who bears the burden? The burden has to be borne by the public. And how is the burden borne? By increasing taxes and failing to listen when the public raise up their voices. That is why we are here. We have positions that should not be there in the first place.
Yes.
Why should we have more than 1 advisor? Why should we have more than 1 PS in a ministry? Why should we have a maximum? Why do we have, for example, CAS, although he removed it, but he insisted in having them, even after the court ruled otherwise. They were still around the president. I don't know how he was paying them, but that is something that needs to be audited.
Were they being paid really?
I don't know whether they were being paid or not, but you see, he only revised it the other day after the finance bill. We have also had advisors who are also not properly advising the president, yet they are taking a lot of money from the public's coffers. My question is, or my litmus test is, before you create a position, one should ask on the necessity of that position, and upon the necessity of that position, the urgency of that position.
Yes.
And then number 3, do we have the capacity to finance that position? If we do that, then we'll be able now to deal with the we will be able to deal with the culture of coming up with position just to reward people. The other thing that I found very interesting, that some of these guys who are being rewarded, and that actually which led to the disbandment of the cabinet, was these are guys who, one, they lacked the competence. Some of them lacked the competence, and I have said in this platform, last time I said it, even the president himself, the employer, came out and told them that, you see, I understand your dockets more than you do, and still they were maintained. Some of these guys also lacked the integrity. Chapter 6, if you know, there were some murder suspects who were actually appointed to the cabinet.
Some had different qualifications, but were put in different institutions or some other ministries.
Exactly, and there were also some murder suspects. The reason I'm saying a suspect is not, you are still innocent until proven guilty. But of course, you had some cases. And what happens if you are appointed as a cabinet secretary, there is a likelihood that you will influence the outcome. And that is what happened. Look at what is happening at KRA, and you saw how the Supreme Court ruled. So we should be a country that, number one, likes competence or admires competent leadership, and number two, we should be a country that also admires integrity. If we do that, we will be having...
Again, someone would argue, I understand you, Peter, but
yes,
we look at this, Mukundi. The president had the prerogative of choosing his cabinet on the onset. And now, 22 months later, he's now chopping them. He's put them on the guillotine. I would imagine, what happened midway, the journey?
I think we are living in a very interesting time.
Yes.
And people have to agree, including the politicians, that times have changed. And you do not put anybody anywhere, anytime, thinking that we will definitely agree that these are the people that should be in those particular positions. What happens is that if you are wrong, nature has a way
of rewarding you.
Of rewarding you and causing you to be right. So what happened is that I think there was something that was not very right in those appointments. And that is why, you know, nature had a way to bring the appointments to be right. And I believe that is where we are. We are living in a time whereby information, you cannot lie to people. Information is right, left, and center. We can be able to check this person, as Peter is saying, that this person has been involved in this particular malpractice or anything else. And therefore, even if we appoint you, even if we reward you, even if we give you that position, definitely there will come a time when we will have people saying this is not the rightful position for the job. And I think the president has been given another chance by God. That he should now make it right, because it was wrong. So it is a chance that he has been given so that he can make things right. Because the way we are moving, the way we had been moving, is like things were moving in the same old way. And as I have told you, times have changed. And if times have changed, we have to change the methodologies, we have to change the situations, we have to change the people, we have to change the ways, we have to reform. We have no option. So I think that is where we are.
Maybe just to add, Oloo, you see, the reason as to why it's sometimes we could be accused of judging them harshly, but even some of them came out outrightly. You saw Moses Kuria the other day. He said it was a dysfunctional cabinet, meaning they admit. And what does that mean? Did the president know that it was a dysfunctional cabinet? I presume so. The other day, his principal legal advisor also distanced himself from every action the president took. He said, he never takes my advice. What does that insinuate? It was dysfunctional. Then my question is, had the Gen Zs not come out to protest and to give ultimatums that this cabinet must go, would we still be having an incompetent cabinet?
That is why Mukundi says that he's been given another chance by God.
It's good. God has given him a chance. And this is actually an act of God. But my question is, what would have happened if we would have gone with the traditional norm, where opposition would come out, they are tear-gassed, they are blamed for being the perpetrators of anarchy, and of course the excuses are always there. And then after that, what happens? We still maintain the same cabinet that is dysfunctional. That is very wrong. and it's a punishment to very innocent electorates, not very innocent,
yes,
but to tax-paying electorates who deserve service delivery from those who have been entrusted with positions.
And that brings me to the next question. Actually, our main topic of today. So where do we find the balance? Because the country is not yet, the president does not have a substantive government, so to speak, the entire cabinet. The government is there in place and all that. But the cabinet, to make decisions and to advise the president, to run the ministries, is not in place yet. And the country, as we speak, the kind of mood that we are experiencing, gentlemen, I know that you are coming to this to the studio.
Yes.
You also what's happening around the city.
Yes.
It's not the normal business. The Nairobi is always a buzz with a lot of activity. Everything has gone a bit quiet. So why do you strike that balance? What do you think the president is now thinking on his table as we speak? Mukundi.
Yeah, what I think is that I know right now, and we have seen him moving. Yesterday he was somewhere in Nakuru. And you know, what he is actually thinking is, I think he is trying to check the kind of mood that we have in the country. And so that he may come up with his appointments again. Because he has also promised that we should pray for him so that he gets the best people to fill the positions. So, but nevertheless, I totally think that whatever he did was okay, because that is what Kenyans wanted. We wanted that the cabinet dissolved, and that is what happened. And so what is in his mind, I think for now, according to me, not according to any other person, is that he is trying to cause to think around and to check how people and Kenyans are thinking, so that he can decide what to do. He is a very bright president. And I think that is what he is planning in his mind. But as we talk about that, I think it is also important that we, if he can hear us, and I know he hears, then it is important that he also knows that it is no longer business as usual in Kenya. People have changed, and therefore people have expressed what they need in terms of the cabinet and in terms of anything. Because again, we cannot stay like that. We cannot stay like a government that does not have any mwelekeo, a government that does not know where it is moving, a government that cannot have a cabinet to actually also do some policies and other things. So I totally believe that he has now a chance to come up with good people, and we are not in shortage of good people in this nation.
Let's go back 19 years ago.
Yes.
When President, the late Emilio Kibaki, sent people packing.
Yeah.
You know, some of them were in the previous government and et cetera, including Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
Martha Karua, all of them were there. What really changed at that particular point, immediately after President Mwai Kibaki fired his entire cabinet? Was there a paradigm shift in his leadership?
Yes, there was, because he had to take some people that were a little bit loyal to him, and he had to make a government that was all inclusive, so that he can have that political royalty. And that won't be a mistake this time around. Reason is because, as you see, it is like we do not, the Gen Zs are saying that we are leaderless. The JCs are saying that we are tribeless. And therefore it is not about tribal balancing, it is not about who is the leader or inclusive government, the grand coalition government. It is not about that. I think for now, what people would want, they are looking for people, and people are like Peter here, the Gen Zs, millennials. They are looking for people who are corrupt-free. They are looking for people who are who have good history, who can help this nation. And that is what he should look for, because that is what we need. People are not interested with who comes from which county, or what is who was serving, sijui where, or which experience. They are not really interested. What they are interested with is Kenyans that can really work for them. And that is what we would really tell our president to
Very well.
about.
Peter, what about you? I know you're a student of history. Mwai Kibaki wakes up in the morning, you know, that 7 p.m. bulletin. Actually, it was right here on KBC. It was at 7 p.m. when everything went live at State House and he fired the entire cabinet. What really happened thereafter? Did we see the same President Mwai Kibaki? There's a reason, there's a place where I want us to land. Did you see a different President Kibaki thereafter? Because it was after the referendum.
You see, after the referendum, it was only 2 years. But let me give you, let me comment on that. You see, the circumstances under which President Kibaki fired his cabinet is totally different from the circumstances under which this cabinet has been fired.
But he felt let down.
The Kibaki's government, our cabinet, were fired because there had been a failure on his part to actually have the referendum. And one thing he realized that those who were surrounding him were actually not loyal. So he decided to come up with a new face that will be loyal to him. And we saw the repercussion of that. The 2007 elections, I don't know whether he lost or won. That is a mystery that has never been, a puzzle that has never been answered. But then after the 2008, going forward, you saw there were so many developments that we had. It was a grand coalition. Now look at, it was a more inclusive government. You saw Kalonzo Musyoka was brought on board. You saw Raila was brought on board. You saw all the political participants were brought on board. And it was an inclusive government. That is prior, I mean after the 2007 election. Looking at what we have right now, the president has fired his cabinet, not because he feels they are not loyal. It's because the public feels they are incompetent and they do not deserve those positions. So it is the public that has pushed the president to fire his cabinet. Unlike the other one, where the president felt by himself that I need to have this cabinet. Let me just explain something. You see, the demography of this country is very interesting. We have the old, who were very wealthy, living in the village, and most of them were not learned. So their wealth was their wealth was around the cattle, the big shambas, and everything. These guys were very loyal, and it was about our person. You are not learned or not, provided you have a voice, and you see the qualifications were not that high, you will be elected. Then there is this other category of around 50 going to 60, 70. These are gentlemen who are learned, but not so much learned, but are holding positions, very big positions and very influential positions. Some of them have maybe diplomas, some of them have degrees, and also they are very much choreographed around their tribes. They identify with a given ideology. We are from the mountain, we are from Luo Nyanza, this is our leader, and etc. Then there is this group between 19 years, around 16, this new group. These are guys, some of them, who are born in Nairobi. Something that I also need to point out. The other two groups, most of them were married within themselves. You find a Luo is married to a Luo, a Kikuyu is married to a Kikuyu, a Kalenjin is married to a Kalenjin. So it was furthering their tribe tyranny. But there is a new demography in Kenya. A new demography that is comprised of individuals between the age of 16 to 34 or 35 thereabout, or even 40. Some of these guys were born in Nairobi. They have mothers from Kamba, fathers from Luo. They go to the village once. They stay in Kileleshwa or Kibera or Uruma, where their language is Kiswahili. They never get agitated when you tell them that a Kisi does this or a Luo does this.
They don't understand.
They don't understand. They are these guys who are very much informed, so that their motivation is based on their information.
Right.
Their motivation is also based on the current happenings. There's somewhere I'm leading with this. I'm heading with this.
And I want to take a break.
Okay.
I want to take a break. So where do we find the balance?
So
because that's the big question. There's a reason why I picked the President Mwai Kibaki's style of doing things when he fired his cabinet and compared to this one. And how the president found that equilibrium moving forward to the subsequent election, and then he got his second chance in power. I want us to come back there, but there's something I like you said. They don't know the language. Enda kwa street, Kizungu tu.
It's Kizungu.
Kizungu tu. Some of them hata sielewi. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. All right, stay studio with Peter and John. These were the two men they were disciples of Christ, right? We had Peter, Simon Peter, and John the Baptist.
We are still the disciples of Christ.
Actually, John was the disciple.
Who was the most notorious amongst John and Peter?
It was Peter.
Judas.
No. I see what you've done there, John. All right, Peter. All right. So let's come back. You're submitting before we took a break. I'll give a minute to do that.
So what happens? You see, the kind of political arrangement in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and now are quite different. These are guys who are informed. These are guys who have experts. They have internet. They can gauge what you give them vis-a-vis what they have. So it's very, very difficult to manipulate them by way of propaganda. They go, and like Bereans, they study that word.
Yes.
After you tell them, they study it. It's same thing with the Christianity. You see, that age that we've talked about, the age of 70s going forward, and then there is now this new age. There is an age that is very loyal to religious leaders, that a religious leader will say this, and that will be the constitution, and they will live by it without even questioning it. But this is a new generation that understands. They will go and reread and revise and actually know the truth. So you cannot expect to deal with the current generation the same way Moi dealt with the then generation, or that Kibaki dealt with that generation, or that we dealt, that Uhuru dealt with that generation. This is a generation that is very much informed. Then where am I heading with this? You can now not come and tell this generation that, you see, this is happening, it is because of this. This generation have very objective and clear demands. Their demands is good governance, their demands is accountability, and their demand is having a competent government and a corrupt-free government, without which you will still be at loggerheads with them. Then what should the president do in the circumstances? The president should do three things. Number one, avoid bringing excuse after excuse. The president has already started on a very good note. He has fired the cabinet. He has also moved to put austerity measures in government, parastatals and government expenditure. The government has also shown the goodwill of engaging everyone in the decision making. The only mistake he should not do is to be moved by emotion and fail to follow the legal procedures. With that, he'll find himself in court. Already, there are 7 petitioners who are challenging the removal of the AG. So he needs to get the legal basis of his action, not just moving with the demands, because that will also bring him to a lot of disrepute, and he will end up spending a lot of money to defend such things even reverse them.
It's country first.
Yes.
So that brings my next point, Mukundi, because at the end of the day, we must get some equilibrium at this particular point moving forward. 14 days to get his cabinet in place. And now, at this particular point, we are also seeing a situation where other PSS and advisors on the chopping board, perhaps this happened because a day before the dissolution of the cabinet, he advised the cabinet secretaries to give a name of an advisor in each ministry. Whether that happened or not, we are yet to find out. But at this particular point, the president has a prerogative now to piece up the country together, to make it as a bloc. assume you're sitting on that round table, and you know what? He's sitting there, and you know, Mr. President, this is it. How do we move from here?
I think just as Peter is saying, the best option will be not only to answer to the demands, because sometimes the demands may be logical, sometimes the demands may be emotional, sometimes the demands may not really be the best decisions for the country. As a president, I think what he needs to do is to sit down. He has a vision, and he had a vision for this nation. He needs to ask himself what is inside of him that he requires to do vis-a-vis the Constitution, as Peter is saying, because again, we do not need to make decisions that are beyond the law. We do not want to make decisions that are detrimental to the rights of individuals and such like things. So I totally believe at this particular time, what he needs to do is he needs to sit down. He asks himself, what does he really want for this nation? And then if he knows what he wants for this particular nation, he makes a decision. And that decision should be in line with the law. It should be in line with the vision that he had for this nation. And he moves on. Because again, if we assume that he is answering to every demand that has been given, sometimes you realize that we can go in the wrong direction. Reason is because he is just firefighting, and we need not to really firefight in this nation. We only require to do that which is right, and that is what I believe is.
And you know, even in the process of healing the nation, there are institutions as well. Because government is amorphous. It doesn't have shape. Actually, it's like the Gen Z. Tribeless, you know, leaders and all that. But government is amorphous. You and I form part of government. I would think having all other institutions on board, Peter, in the process of finding the solution and, you know, not firefighting the way he's putting it, other institutions also play a key role. The religious institutions, we have got civil society, of which the president also blamed part of the civil society, the Ford Foundation, of funding the process that we saw in the country and whatever is happening. We are yet to establish that. But at what point do we have the common mwananchi, the civil society, the church, and any other institution, including the judiciary and the legislature, coming on board to help to craft this kind of the peace block that we need in the country?
Thank you so much for that question. I totally agree to the dialogue, the need to have a dialogue. And I know there are quarters that do not want the dialogue. But this is my take on the dialogue. The Gen Z or the youth or the electorates already have their demands, which are very clear. And as I said, they need accountability in government. They need a clear formula to look at the public debt. They need a corrupt-free nation. They need competence. And of course, they need a president and a cabinet and a government that respects human rights. And that accounts for the extrajudicial killings that we have experienced. Now, this cannot happen, or this cannot be done by Mr. President alone. He needs stakeholders. And how does this happen? Because you see, as much as the Gen Zs, we are leaderless and faceless, already we have put out that, and we have our demands. So the president needs to...
But are you ready to back down? Are the Gen Z ready to back down?
We are not.
Because what's happening in the country right now, the mood is... It's telling.
You see, the thing is, we have already given our demands. And we need answers. These answers cannot be given by the president unilaterally.
Then why don't you... That's why you give a chance.
And then that's why I'm coming to this. So what happens? The president needs to consult widely. All we don't need is picking a few individuals from within us or among us to come and rubber stamp what you're doing. We need action. So these actions, if you can talk it in there with all the stakeholders, then we will come, because you cannot talk with all of us. We have given you that mandate. Consult widely, provided that your talks yield relevant and good fruits that will be palatable. The problem is that we've had so many talks. That is why we are very hesitant about these talks. We've had the NADCO talk. Where is it? It's not implemented until the other day when they implemented 1 out of the 9 demands. So why are we going for these talks if they cannot be implemented?
But again, Peter, I think, do we have a situation whereby all of us can agree on one thing? That is why I'm saying sometimes we cannot have many rulers. Even the Bible says there is always a problem when we have many rulers in a place. So there is no way we can actually say that the president listens to or consorts who should be what. Sometimes it is his own independent decisions. There is no way we can satisfy everybody. Out of 50 million Kenyans, it is practically impossible to satisfy. Even the cabinet that you will come up with, you will still realize there are some people who will say, you know, we do not need that cabinet. There was something wrong. But do we stay without a cabinet in this nation just because everybody is not satisfied? That is why I'm saying sometimes it is important that we also give him a chance. Because he is the president, he has a vision.
Daktari, my take is, I agree with you, but my take is, he should consult. But then in his consultation...
Didn't you offer that?
In his, we agree.
You know that 6-day dialogue was supposed to begin yesterday. It is not there. Neither do we have any communication from State House or even from Raila Odinga's desk himself. We don't have that communication. Neither do we have an agenda, do we have delegates, do we have venue. There is no communication as part of that. But there was that goodwill to have a conversation to kickstart the whole process. So what do Kenyans want? The same way President Kenyatta asked.
You see, as the electorates, we have given out our demands. It is the Gen Zs who are leaderless, faceless, and tribeless. The political class is not faceless. The political class is not leaderless. They have their leaders. And that's why I wonder why the likes of His Excellency, former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, is running away from the talks, yet he has a party that he leads. It is a good opportunity. It's the same thing that I come to you as a parent.
Yes.
And I tell you, Daddy, I want this and this. The cost is 2,000. Then you tell me, we will consult and get back. Then you go and have a discussion with the mom, and then you come the following day and tell us, these were your demands, and this is what we are able to meet. One of those demands we have...
that's not there's leadership.
That's what...
There is a child, there's a father, and there's a mother. Gen Z does not have any leader. So
the Gen Z have already given their demands. They are leaderless, but their demands are very clear. The demands are just, if we narrow it down to the Gen Z, then it becomes a bit difficult. Let's say the electorates,
that's what I'm talking about, literally.
The Kenyans have got their demands. They need independence of institutions, non-interference. They need accountability. They needed the cabinet to be scrapped off. I mean, the cabinet to be dissolved. It was dissolved. Did you have a round table with the Gen Zs? You didn't have that round table. So you can consult among you. Because you have political class and everything, they are leaders and everything. Consult, but all we need is that we need to see results going forward. But results that will anchor with the best interest of this country.
Based on what you're telling me, John, disciples, don't you think this is more than what really started as the finance bill? Because it's mutating each and every day. We have something coming up.
Yes.
It started by reject the finance bill 2024. And now, from what I can pick, Peter, you're right. I take that brilliantly put. But then I have a feeling that so much is happening within a split second that even the president is now getting overwhelmed. What do I pick and what do I leave?
That is why I've said
it
is practically impossible to please everybody. And as you are saying right now, as you are correctly putting it, it is mutating every other day. Something new is coming every other day. It is a chance to make this nation better. But we cannot do everything at a go. We cannot achieve everything at a go. The people that are saying that they are leaderless, I tend also not to agree.
Yeah.
Because how are they coming up with those demands? Who is writing those demands? Where are they emanating from? There must be a leader. It's only that the leader is not known, or the leader cannot be established, because there is no way we can have such an organized group and there is nothing. There is one source of information where it is coming from. So I totally believe that also those particular people which are giving that kind of information, I think, as Peter is saying, it is time also to have dialogue. They can come up, because again, I tend to think it is important to have a dysfunctional leader than to have no leader at all. It is important as a nation, because peace is far much important. I heard another girl in Somalia saying that I wish we have a bad leader instead of having this kind of a nation. So I totally believe we should also give some dialogue a chance, because I think out of all the demands that were given by Gen Zs, President has actually answered to so many of them, and he has followed so many of them. And I believe it is also the high time we see what is logical and what is not logical. And it is also the high time that we also ask ourselves, are we for peace of this nation?
I'm tempted to ask you this one.
Yes.
Dr. Because when all these things started, we never expected it to be where we are. It's almost now a month at where we are. The kind of situation that we are in this country is, perhaps you can say, it's moving the president to another level, that if he gets out of this situation successful, then it means that moving forward, the Gen Z shall have lost, because you don't have a leader. Let me put it this way. If you have organization without a leader, without structures, then it's easier for the other opponent to attack. This is like going to a war zone, Peter, right? If you don't have a platoon commander, you would imagine who is going to be taking the orders.
Let me answer
Because
you.
every soldier will be taking every direction.
Let me answer that. You see, the reason as to why the Gen Z are leaderless, faceless, and tribeless, let me explain. The Constitution gives power to the people. And this power can be exercised directly or indirectly. We chose to exercise our powers indirectly by electing among us leaders. We sent these leaders to the executive. We sent these leaders to the parliament. And some of them we sent to the county assembly and to the county executive to represent our needs. What that means is that you are sent, and when you are sent, you should get information from those who sent you. Now, when we sent these guys to parliament, they decided not to talk or to speak on our behalf, but to speak on behalf of the president and on their own behalf. We shouted, we made noise, they never listened to us. In fact, they mocked us. Where did we go to? Because we had issues, even prior to that, we had issues. The electorates had issues. We decided to now go and demand for our issues. And you saw, we successfully demanded for the finance bill to be recalled. And it was successfully done. Now we also demanded for the removal of, the dissolution of the cabinet, which was actually done. Why am I saying this? We have leaders who have failed us. And that is why we are leaderless. So what do we need? We need a paradigm shift in the leadership. Because if you elect among us leaders, what is the rationale and what is the surety that the same leaders who are elected from us or appointed from us will not be compromised? So we have voiced out our needs. to the president. We have voiced out our needs out there, and they should be acted upon. How do we need them to be acted upon? By letting our leaders represent us, and also giving us that avenue through which we can recall them should they fail to represent us. The first thing the members of parliament did in the Elections Act 2011, very early, they decided to make it very difficult to recall them. One, they went and inserted in the Elections Act section 45 a very outrageous demand that before you can recall a member of parliament, you must go and have the grounds validated by the High Court. Bring those grounds, then you collect like signatures. It was a very tedious process. Yeah. And so you are telling us on our face, mtadu. So that we have gone to that extent. And we are telling them that you either ship in or ship out.
Yes.
So what we actually need is that our leaders must go back to the basics and of representation. Number two, our leaders must go back to the basics of the constitution or of oversight. Number three, our leaders must also go back for enacting laws that resonates and that are very objective. Other than that, you will look for leaders, you will not get them, because we know what will happen if those leaders are chosen. The other thing that I also want to say, we have also experienced something that should be dealt with. The national principle and values of governance under Article 10 provides for, number one, democracy.
Yes.
It provides for public participation. It provides for inclusivity. We have a deputy president who came out and told taxpayers, Kenyan taxpayers, what did he tell them? He told the taxpayers that this government is a government of shareholders. And what did he mean? He meant the shareholders is basically between the Mount Kenya and the Rift Valley. Other people who are also deserving taxpayers were excluded from that government. And this is the same person who comes when they are so, when things are very thick and tough, and he calls us, all Kenyans, his daughters and his sons. It only means that this guy is trying to use us for his own political interest and gains. The president should know that he was surrounded by enemies from the word go, who are only following him for their own political interest. And if it was my wish for those utterances by the deputy president, he deserves to be impeached. But there are only three. I see there is some bromance between them. That, having said that, Oloo, I reiterate.
Yes.
I reiterate this just in one minute, in one sentence. I reiterate this, that we have already given out our demands. It is upon the government to act, so that you cannot do 100%, but let us see the progress within the law.
John the Baptist.
Yes.
Baptizers, tukimalizia.
What I would want to say to leaders, whether they are in political circles or anywhere else, it is important that we realize that we are having some major change, not only in Kenya, but also in the entire world. And it is the high time that we adopt to the change that is already coming.
Yes.
So we change the way we are doing things. We change the manner in which we are doing things, the methodologies in which we are doing things, so that we can remain relevant. There are some people who will be irrelevant after this.
I'm tempted to ask you this question, gentlemen, and I want you to answer me in 1 minute if you can.
Yes.
Since independence in 1963,
yes,
you know, the presidents, all of them, the four of them, have had their testing moment. The late President Moi had his 1982 moment.
Cool.
You know, President Mwai Kibaki also had his fair share during the referendum. President Uhuru Kenyatta also had his fair share, and all that. Also, here we are. But all of them somehow came out victorious. And all of them had their moments of paradigm shifts. President Moi, after that particular point, he was never the same again. President Mwai Kibaki as well, after losing the referendum in 2002 and now fired almost everyone, he was never the same again. And up now, we are here. Are we likely to see a different President William Ruto? In 5 seconds.
Yes, we are bound to see a very different president. Why? Because that is the baptism.
Thank you. Hey, okay. Okay, yes, Peter.
We are likely to see a different president because he has realized that it's not about the political class. The electorates have devised a way of airing their voices. So you don't expect the opposition to speak or the members of parliament to speak. We will always go and air out our grievances in a very organized manner. And this, I know for a fact, will change him.
I had two disciples on set, Peter, Wakili, and Dr. John Mukundi. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Wana imeisha tu hivyo. You've baptized us the same way. Let's go and follow the leaders out there, not follow Jesus. Of course, that is not happening. We only have another Jesus somewhere of Tongarend and all that, but here we are doing what is important. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. And of course, your valued contribution to the program. All right, that's where we wrap it up. We're taking a break and we come back. We're, of course, crossing over to Zinga. Rashid Momkondo is standing by, and he's also joined by, that is Godfrey Ruku, he's Member of Parliament in Bere North. Also joining him is Hussein Khalid Mkurugenzi, Vocal Africa. They'll be talking about matters to do with mustakabali wa taifa, that is matters of national concern. Basically almost what we were talking about. But now, let's take a break. When we come back, Richard will take it over. My name is Victor. Good morning.
France welcomes the world for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. In this edition, heroic Team Kenya is pushing boundaries as well.
An Olympic gold medal.
More significantly, Kenya is intent on claiming victory at the quadrennial sporting event comprising of 45 sports that will be staged from 24th of July through to the 11th of August. Here comes